exactly 1 week from today, Michigan voters will head to the polls in the Democratic primary to replace retiring Senator Gary Peters. Last night, the two leading Democratic candidates met face-to-face in their final debate before Election Day, and they traded sharp attacks over campaign motives and outside money in the race.
When you're bought off by DTE and Blue Cross and Big Pharma and Big Tech and APAC, don't be surprised that there's a pro quo that comes with that quid. That money doesn't just fall off trees. $60 million from outside organizations in this race didn't just come from nowhere.
A lot of you remember Abdul from when he first ran for governor in 2018. It didn't work out. So he started the podcast, he wrote the books, and now he's running for Senate. And he's already bought the website for president. You know, it's just another rung on the ladder.
Joining me now is CBS News Executive Director of White House and Politics, Fin Gomez. Fin, good to see you. We've had you so often because this is that time when we talk about the midterms, right? So what stood out to you from this final debate, and could it shift momentum heading into next week's primary?
That's right, Muga. We are 98 days away from the midterms and just a week away from this key August primary in Michigan. And it was a fiery final debate in Michigan before that primary next Tuesday. And I think some of the sharpest exchanges that we saw were about outside fundraising and overall electability heading into the general election. Stevens lashed out, questioned whether El-Sayed is running for the Senate or if he was running for president. Mugo, there was some reporting this past week that his campaign had bought El-Sayed 2028 websites. El-Sayed also fired back, saying that Stevens is too dependent on outside money, pointing to the nearly $20 million that AIPAC Super PAC had spent boosting her campaign. And that's been a crucial part of his campaign, has been his attacks on that AIPAC fundraising. Stevens also countered during the debate, saying that El-Sayed's own super PAC had taken over $300,000 from his father-in-law. So a lot of this back and forth that we saw over finances, over income, but really at the heart of it was this, what we're seeing is in real time this argument play out that's happening within the Democratic Party between progressives and more establishment-backed moderates like Stevens. And what you saw in that debate are the two directions that are currently being offered to Democratic voters as we get closer to these elections in November. Mugo.
Yeah, and Fin, El-Sayed is facing backlash over a leaked comment about putting an ogre on a pike, a remark he says was a metaphorical reference to primary challenges against Senator John Fetterman. Just how much damage, though, could this controversy do to him with Democratic voters, especially in a primary that is already divided between the party's progressive and also moderate wings?
That's right, Muga. Look, he has said that this controversy, it was obtained, it was said during a private donor meeting. It was obtained by Politico. El-Sayed said that a win in Michigan will let progressives credibly go after such Democrats like Senator John Fetterman. He did say that, but it had been others had taken those comments and said that he was referring to Stevens. In the debate last night, he said that he was not referring to Stevens, and he also said that he had said publicly and to his own staff not to have them attack her personally. But it has caused and generated some negative headlines that could have an impact when you're this close to the primary election. Mugo.
And we know President Trump, he campaigned with Republican Mike Rogers yesterday. How much could his endorsement and support shape the general election once Democrats have selected their nominee?
Mugo, it's a double-edged sword, in part because Mike Rogers, the Republican running in the Senate race, needs that base galvanized, and Donald Trump is the one who can galvanize that base. At the same time, Democrats are running, they're running against Mike Rogers, if it's El-Sayed or Stevens, they're running against him and his closeness to President Trump. They want this election to be a referendum on Trump's policies, and that's why it's a double-edged sword here, Mugo.
All right, Fin Gomez, as always, thank you so much for your time.